back, ladies and gentlemen, to the She Knows Pro Football podcast. Once again, I'm Alice, aka the NFL Girl. And once again, I got my good friend Dominick here with me. Dominick, how you doing today?
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. We're here for some exciting playoff football to make up for some of the ugly games that we had last week. But one thing I can know for certain is now that we're in the playoffs, you're not going to hear one more COVID test, negative or positive, for the rest of the year.
Which is a frightening prospect, but whatever it takes to get us to the Super Bowl, I guess that's all they care about in the league. Well, you guys, it is time. We are in the playoffs. That means all the games moving forward are going to be pretty exciting. We get to eliminate all those trash games and all those trash teams and get down to the nitty gritty. Let's get started with our Saturday matchups. Starting with the 10-7 Las Vegas Raiders headed to Cincinnati to face the 10-7 Bengals. Dominick, who you got?
I did not expect the Raiders to be in the playoffs, especially after they fired John Gruden or he left. Their interim coach is doing really, really good. If they win this game, he's got to keep the job. I don't think they are going to win this game, though. I just think that the Bengals defense is decent. Their offense is extremely good, though. Between T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, as well as Tyler Boyd, they have Joe Mixon in the backfield. Joe Burrow's doing incredible things right now. So I just think that even though they haven't won a playoff game since like 1973 or something, that I do think they are going to win this one. And I think the Raiders are going to go out in the first round. So give me the Bengals in this one.
Listen, Raiders run a shocker, heartbreaker. I don't know what to call it, but it was a very exciting game, very interesting game. And I love what their interim coach has been able to do, considering the position he was put in, taking over for John Gruden, losing their WR1 and Henry Ruggs. The fact that he's able to get this team into the playoffs is a hell of a testament for how good of a coach he has been for this team. Kudos for him, but they're going against the Bengals, and the Bengals have been exciting and fun to watch this year. My goodness, Jamar Chase is absolutely offensive rookie of the year. I'm not having it any other way at this point. And I know there's a lot of cases for other players, but it's definitely going to this kid here. And I say that because he's got this matchup with Joe Burrow, and with a healthy Joe Mixon there, this team is going to be hard to stop. Don't see Raiders being able to overcome what they're capable of doing. They're at home, so definitely giving this game to the Bengals.
Yeah, Jamar Chase may put an exclamation point on his season this week against the Raiders, whose secondary is extremely backed up and their linebackers are terrible. So he may get another 200-yard game here.
And that would seal the deal. That kid has got it. Next up, we got the 10-7 New England Patriots headed to Buffalo to face the 11-6 Bills. Dominick, who you got?
Two teams that they split this year. Obviously, they played that ugly game in Buffalo where Buffalo lost, and then Buffalo came back and smacked them in New England. This one obviously is in Buffalo again. We know that Bill Belichick kind of is able to shut down Josh Allen from time to time. Josh Allen looked great last week. He had 2 interceptions, which were bad, but he did have 3 rushing touchdowns to get him through. He's not going to be able to get 3 rushing touchdowns on New England like he did against Atlanta last week. Stefon Diggs is going to have to step up. He dropped a touchdown again last week. If he doesn't step up, the Patriots could easily win this game. Because it's a division matchup, we always know that they're close, even in the playoffs, these division matchups. So I do think it's going to be very close, but I do think the Bills are going to be able to win this one by like a point.
This is probably going to be one of the better playoff games for this particular weekend because these two teams, we had the snow globe game, which obviously the Patriots won. They have a more solid ground game, which is what they had to go to in that game. And you can count on Damian Harris to get you the yards that you need. That's how they won that game. But then the Bills turned around and were able to smack the hell out of the Patriots, which was necessary for these two teams to show what they are capable at doing, especially the Bills, who people had a lot of question marks about in the middle of the season. Now here we are facing off in the playoffs. Does Mac Jones have enough to make the case for Offensive Rookie of the Year? He could do that if he could get this win. Absolutely. He can make that case. However, they are going against the Bills, and the Bills need to prove once and for all that they can beat Bill Belichick and go further in the playoffs. I think this is the opportunity for them to get it done this season. I love Josh Allen. I need Stefon Diggs to step it up. I need Emmanuel Sanders to play a hell of a game. Definitely got to see something in that backfield. But at the end of the day, I think the Bills can get it done. They're ready to prove that they can do it, giving this one to the Bills. Moving on to Sunday, we got the 9-8 Philadelphia Eagles headed to Tampa Bay to face the 13-4 Buccaneers. Dominic, who you got?
These teams played earlier this year, and Tampa Bay pretty much dominated that whole game until the Eagles came back at the very end and covered with the 2-point conversion. They still lost by 6 points. This game right now, the line's 8.5 points. Tampa Bay is much better at home. We've been talking about all year than they are on the road. This game is going to be at home. Tom Brady's getting older. His shoulders are starting to ache, but he's down in Florida where he can stay nice and looped up and warm in that swampy heat. And I think they're going to go into Raymond James Stadium, and I think they're going to crush the Eagles. I think they're going to win this one by probably 2 or 3 touchdowns.
I don't have the faith in the Eagles that a lot of people do. I'm shocked they even got into the playoffs. It's just not a good testament to the rest of that division. But going against the Buccaneers and the way the Buccaneers have been playing, I know that they're going to still be without Chris Godwin. I know that Mike Evans is hobbled, but they still got Gronk there. And Tom Brady has some kind of magic formula with working with Gronk. And so I don't have any doubt whatsoever, considering the level of play that Brady plays whenever he gets into the playoffs, no matter what team it's for. He just elevates himself to another level when he's in the playoffs. I don't see how Eagles can overcome what he is capable of doing when he's this far into a season, even with the weapons they have there. Even with as much as I like Jalen Hurts, Tom Brady's going to kick this child's ass. Definitely giving this one to the Bucs. Next up, we got the 10-7 San Francisco 49ers headed to Dallas to face the 12-5 Cowboys. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, Dallas is kind of a fraudulent team here. I mean, I know everybody was talking about Miami being fraudulent. Dallas is in the same vein. And to think about it, so are the Eagles. They beat up on bad teams. They don't beat any teams that are good. For the Eagles, the only team they beat this year with an over 500 record were the Saints. Dallas, they came out and crushed Washington, but then the next week they barely beat the Giants. Yeah, they beat them, but they barely did. And they play very good or very bad, down depending on what the teams on their side. San Francisco actually is a very good team. They're not a great team. I don't trust them to go to the Super Bowl or anything, but I do think that they are going to be able to hold down Dallas here. Their defense is playing better. I know their pass defense is not great, but their run defense is very good. Their offensive line is very good, so they're going to be able to run the ball as well. Deebo Samuel, actually, I think is going to be the best player in this game. I think he's going to take over this game, and I really like San Francisco to go into Dallas and win the game.
Wow, that's a shocking one. You guys, I just don't have faith in Jimmy G. I'm not sold on him. I don't know that he's the future for this team. I'm just not convinced of that. I like that they got Eli Mitchell back, and when he was healthy during the season, he looked phenomenal. I like the receivers that Jimmy G has. Deebo Samuel is probably one of my favorite receivers in the league, and then Brandon Ayuk really stepped up this year, and then obviously George Kittle is always going to do his thing. They're going against Dallas at home, though, and Dallas, I admit they had some games there at home, especially like, let's say, the Broncos game where it didn't make sense the way they got stomped, but when they're playing solid and they got everyone healthy, they play another level of ball. Yes, they don't have Michael Gallup there, but we still got CeeDee Lamb. We still got Amari Cooper. Cedric Wilson keeps popping up out of nowhere. We still got a healthy Zeke, and we still got a healthy Tony Pollard. And oh, guess what? We still got that. I have faith that the Cowboys can get out of the first round of the playoffs. Do I have faith that they can get further than that? Absolutely not. But with Jimmy G as the starting QB, I can't pick this team. And that's just because of Jimmy G and nothing else. Gotta give this one to the Cowboys. Next up, we got the 9-7-1 Pittsburgh Steelers headed to Kansas City to face the 12-5 Chiefs. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, Pittsburgh should never have been in the playoffs. They're going to prove it this week. This game's going to be a bloodbath. By the end of the game, you're not going to know which team is which because there's going to be so much blood all over the Pittsburgh Steelers jerseys that they're going to look like the Chiefs jerseys. So this game, I think, is going to be the least interesting game of the entire weekend, and I think the Steelers might even get shut out in this one as slow as they've been starting lately. They may never get started in this one.
Honestly, kudos that they even made it this far. I know this was the opportunity to give Big Ben one more shot, one more playoff game, and I appreciate it. But Big Ben is not the same Big Ben from years ago. And it was very obvious in his last game at Heinz Field that this is his last season. And you could see that the level of play he's able to play for 60 minutes isn't the same. And so kudos that they got this far, but this is the end of the line for them. Going against the Chiefs and the way that Patty Mahomes plays with Tyreek and Mecole and Travis, having a healthy Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the backfield, this defense, when it's playing all together, it's hard to stop. I can't pick the Steelers in this. And it breaks my heart because I would love to see Big Ben go further, but there's not enough left in the tank to carry this team over the line. Definitely giving this one to the Chiefs. And last up, we got our Monday night game. We got the 11-6 Arizona Cardinals headed to Los Angeles to face the 12-5 Rams. Dominick, who you got?
Well, the good thing for the Cardinals for this game is that they're on the road. They've only lost one road game this year, and of course that was to the vaunted Detroit Lions. This game's going to be different, though. I think the Rams are the better team. They're going to come in here. They didn't really care about last week's game, which kind of ticked me off. I wish I would have known that before I put some bets in, but that's another story. But the fact that they did make the playoffs, now they're going to be ready to go. They're going to be able to run the ball, obviously, with Darrell Henderson. Sony Michel is going to do some good things as well. We'll have to see what Matthew Stafford can do now that he's in the playoffs. He's not used to being in the playoffs, so we don't know what he's going to do. He hasn't had a great end to the season, but I do think that he's still talented and he's good enough. He's got good enough receivers to overcome this Arizona defense. So I do think that it's going to be a tough game, probably a high scoring game, but I do like the Rams to win it.
I loved watching the Cardinals during this whole season. They were very fun to watch, especially when they rattled off their first 9 wins. I was very impressed with this team. And then they sort of kind of dipped down and fell off and weren't the same team. The Rams, meanwhile, they've been pretty consistent. Their losses sometimes are extremely perplexing, kind of exposed Matthew Stafford for not being an elite QB. I'm not saying he's a terrible QB. He's a good QB, not a great QB. And you have to know that about him. The way he's able to overcome that is having phenomenal receivers. Cooper Kupp absolutely is in the discussion of MVP, at least offensive player of the year. Absolutely. He has to be in that discussion. And then OBJ started popping up at the end and showing something. They've got a good running game there. Arizona, meanwhile, Kyler Murray without DeAndre Hopkins is not the same Kyler Murray. It really started to show after Nuke went down that something is missing there. And to me, it's been the loss of Nuke has really hurt them. And then Chase Edmonds has been out hurt, and they've had to lean more on James Conner, which hasn't been bad, but it isn't the same. That two-headed monster isn't there, and they haven't played at that same level of consistency. I think the fact that Nuke is not back and will not be able to play on Monday is going to hurt the Cardinals because they need him there. The Rams have a strong defense. Their secondary, we got Jalen Ramsey in there. Aaron Donald is going to be all over Kyler Murray's ass. Absolutely, I think even with Matthew Stafford there as a QB, just because of the receivers that he has there, they can overcome his shortcomings. Gotta get this to the Rams. Well, you guys, that's all our matchups. This past week, though, we had Black Monday. And Black Monday is how do we call it? A national holiday? A national disaster? It's a sad day.
Pastime.
A national pastime for sure. It is a sad day in the league because Black Monday is the day that head coaches get fired. Now, we had some that were kind of shocking. We had some that we obviously saw coming. Matt Nagy it was painfully obvious him and Ryan Pace had to go. I've been saying that, touting that horn before this season started. But I want to know, Dominick, who was for you the most surprising head coach or GM firing that you didn't see coming?
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't, like you said, there weren't many surprises. And I also say that it may not be a national tragedy. I think a lot of these fans, when they hear their coaches are fired, are happy about it. And Matt Nagy is one of the, Chicago fans love the fact he's gone. But we were talking about it beforehand, and I agree with you. I think Brian Flores in Miami has to be the answer here. Nobody expected him to be let go. I mean, maybe after they started 1-7, you expected him to be let go. But when he came back and won 8 of the last 9 games and got him to 9 wins, and he has 19 wins over the past 2 years. It's just crazy to think that they let him go. But apparently, like everybody has that person in their organization that there's always that click, and usually the GM is the one that's in the ear of the owner more than anybody else. So they're almost able to brainwash him in a way into believing what they believe. And it just, from what he's hearing or from what we're getting, and we're obviously it's 5th, 6th hand now, we don't know exactly if it's true or not, but he's not the nicest person. He's got that Bill Belichick grumpy, snotty attitude, except he's not Bill Belichick. He's not not nearly that good, so he doesn't have that cachet to do it yet. And he's just he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So it's more about the office quote unquote politics than it is the on-field play. So I do, out of all these coaches though that got fired this offseason, I do think that he is going to be the one to get another head coaching job this offseason as well.
Listen, there's word that he's already out getting offers to come in for interviews. Over the final 42 games, he finished 24-18. So he was able to make progress. And again, like Dominick said, he was able to finish with a winning record this past season after starting 1-7. So to be able to turn the team around, that means that he was capable of getting this team to all play together. Personality aside, I get it. Not every head coach knows how to be a player coach, know how to speak to everyone in a proper manner or in a way that makes everybody comfortable, and maybe that plays some part in it. We don't know because obviously no one will speak on it, but this one really hurt me and really shocked me because I like Brian Flores, at least what I saw as far as the product he put on the field the last half of the season. I'll say that. I don't know the man personally to say, okay, well, he's kind of a jerk, so I get why they wouldn't stick with him, but I thought I saw him being able to make Tua feel comfortable. Remember, this is a team that at the beginning of the season was going after Deshaun Watson. We heard as late as like week 6, they were still pursuing Deshaun Watson. How did that have to make that kid feel? I know if I was the starting QB and they were telling me that they're going after someone else for my job, I would be pissed. Why would I continue to try and play well for this team that obviously doesn't want me as a starter? Saying all that, the fact that they were 1-7 and then something clicked and then Tua really started playing and this team was able to get to 9-8 at the end of the season says something for what he was capable of doing with Tua. And whatever he said to him, whatever he convinced Tua of, like, yeah, you're the man, you're the one here, screw what you're hearing or whatever, I got you, we gonna get these wins. I'm for it. And that's why I believe that he can go somewhere and be successful because of just the example I had gave you right there, what he was able to do with Tua in a situation where this team was showing that they were out on him before they even were in on him. And that's not fair to him. And so I absolutely think Flores deserves another shot. And I don't wish Miami success at all because I don't feel that was fair or what they did. Regardless of his personality, if he rubs people the wrong way, he was able to do something with the pieces that he had there. Saying all that, Dominick, which do you think of all these openings that we now have, which include the Giants, which includes Miami, which includes obviously Chicago, which do you think is probably the most attractive opening that is available right now, head coach or GM?
Well, I'm going to say that Miami's probably the least attractive just because of their whole situation there. But to me, the most attractive comes down to 2 spots. I do like Jacksonville. Surprisingly, we just have to, as long as Trent Baalke doesn't come with it. If he comes with it, then that slides right down. But to me, it's got to be between Minnesota and Denver. Minnesota, personally, I think is the best one only because I think Denver probably has the best team all around. Minnesota maybe has the best offense, but I think team-wise, Denver's the best team right now. We know they're probably going to try and go after Aaron Rodgers, considering they've already tried to interview his offensive coordinator and his quarterback's coach to become their new head coach. So I don't think that's a good plan for them because that's only going to last them for maybe 2 or 3 years, and they need to think long term. But the only reason that I say Minnesota over Denver is because Minnesota's ownership is very solid right now. They have a very good ownership. They seem to stay out of business, but they know what they're doing. They give people the patience they need. They gave Zimmer 8 years. Rick Spielman was there for 16 years before he was let go. Denver, we don't know who their ownership's going to be. It's probably going to change within the next year, and we don't know how that new ownership's going to be. If it comes in and is somebody like David Tepper, that's going to totally be a nightmare and ruin that franchise, and then it's going to be a bad situation because he's not patient enough. He just thinks that everything has to be fixed now and immediately, and not realizing that doesn't happen in football. But as long as it's a solid ownership group, I would say Denver. But just because we don't know exactly yet what the ownership's going to be, I'm going to say Minnesota is the best job.
Listen, the Broncos' job is appealing because they do have a more solid team, and I think that the GM situation could help them, but I'm not 100% sold on that being the best one simply because of the ownership situation. The Pat Bowles family did not win their lawsuit. That means that this team is absolutely going to be sold. Peyton Manning is in one group trying to purchase the team. John Elway is in another group trying to purchase the team. I don't know that either one of them end up being part owner to the team. And I don't know what difference it makes if either one ends up being a part of ownership or not. I know they have some say. I know they have some feelings about the direction they would like to see the Broncos going in. I haven't cared for the direction that Elway was taking the Broncos when he was the GM. So there's too many question marks there for me for that to be the most appealing spot. The most appealing for me, unfortunately, their ownership isn't the best. It's got to be the Bears, because the Bears didn't just get rid of Matt Nagy. They also got rid of Ryan Pace. So it's going to be a new GM and a new head coach coming in there at the same time. Now, how that pans out, I don't know. Me personally, I want to see a head coach in there that could play up to the abilities of Justin Fields. Let's not do what Miami did with Tua, where they were already out on this kid year one into him being there. Let's get this kid a shot and show him that we're going to put the right offensive line around you. We're going to get you some better receivers. We're not going to depend on Allen Robinson to be healthy every damn week. We're going to get you some other receivers in here. We're going to get you, well, David Montgomery was solid, but we're going to get you the pieces that you need around you in order for you to flourish. And that includes having the right head coach. For me personally, and I know I tout him every year, and I'm going to tout him until he gets a freaking head coach job, that person for me is Eric Bieniemy. And the reason I make the case just particular for this one spot is because of what Bieniemy has done with Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. Now, it could be that Bieniemy is just waiting for whenever Andy Reid decides to finally retire and maybe just hopefully inherits that job. That's one rumor that we hear. But if he was to leave, I would want him to go to the Chicago job, because I see the potential in Justin Fields that was in Patrick Mahomes when he was raw. The talent is there. The ability to scramble is there. The ability to get the ball down the field is there. It just needs to be polished, and he just needs the proper receivers and O-line around him in order to get that done. I'm 100% sold that Bears might be a good spot for him. And to me, for that reason, I think that's probably the most attractive job, simply because it's not just the coach job, it's the GM as well. And hopefully he can get a GM in there that the two of them can work together to make the proper draft picks and make the proper free agency moves to make this a more solid team going forward in the future.
The only problem with the Bears job is I don't know if you saw their press conference from their president / CEO / owner son, whatever he is, but his press conference was so bad that Joe Judge laughed at it. I mean, this thing was terrible when he was talking about how he's not a football guy, he's just a fan, and they had to make this move because his mom was really upset and she doesn't have many more years left to live, and it was just a terrible. And I don't think, I mean, Eric Bieniemy, I really do hope he does get a job, even if it is Chicago, but I don't think Chicago's going to offer him, because Matt Nagy, their last coach, was the offensive coordinator under Andy Reid. So I think they're going to want to go away from that tree for their next head coach. So if Bieniemy does get a job this postseason, which I hope he does, it might be more possibly Minnesota. I would think would be a good fit for him, or like Jacksonville, but only if they get Balky out of there. But I like him in Minnesota more than I do Chicago. So he'll be in the same division, just a different team.
I like that. And you're right. The ownership, again, a lot of the problems with some of these openings is the ownership is garbage. The reason I'm not putting Bieniemy or Kellen Moore, one of these more highly touted OCs, in a position like becoming the head coach for the Giants is because of the ownership more than it is anything else. John Mara, and the way that he was so solidly convinced that Joe Judge is the future Bill Belichick, Bill Parcells, even when it was obvious he was not, and that the quality of the product he was putting on the field was not, and still would not give up on this man. Tisch had to step in and tell Mara, no, this is not it. This is not the future. He is not the head coach we need here. It's ridiculous to me. That shouldn't be the case. And that tends to be the way it is with a lot of these owners, these very stubborn owners, like Rashad Khan, like the Bears owner, like the Lions owners, like the Giants owners. Like, it's so many of these teams that are mired in mediocrity, and it's because that they refuse to just step back and be hands-off as far as handling the day-to-day operations of a football team. And sometimes they're either too hands-off and not making the proper executive decisions, or they're too hands-on in the case of like a Daniel Snyder, where they're too hands-on and they're screwing up their teams. And these teams are failing to succeed because of their inaction or their inability to make the right actions to improve this team. The product is a reflection of that, of these poor owners. And I don't want some of these better head coaches like a Bieniemy, like a Kellen Moore, going into situations where their skills are going to go to waste and they're going to be out as a head coach in like 2 seasons. Because look at Jim Caldwell. Jim Caldwell has not made it back as a head coach, despite the fact he had a winning record in his final season with the Lions. And look at what the Lions are now. They're still garbage. That isn't that I don't wish Dan Campbell well there. I absolutely do. But it's the same problem. It's the fact that the ownership there is just garbage. And I don't think that they're going to succeed at a higher level just because the ownership won't do the things that they need to do to bring in the right personnel and the right players.
Unfortunately, a lot of these owners they look at it as a financial business, not a football team. And as long as they're making their $70 million profit every year, they don't care what the team does on the field.
Boom. And there it is right there, you guys. So we'll see who gets into some of these positions. We'll obviously be back talking about the playoffs. And we're going to talk about some of the ones that start getting filled in and how we feel about those. But my goodness, you guys, until ownership changes for some of these teams, they're going to be mired in mediocrity forever. Well, you guys, that's all the time that we have today. I want to thank everybody again for listening. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at TheNFLGirl320. Dominic, where can they follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at EnvisionFF.
You can read more of my thoughts on SheKnowsProFootball.com. Dominic, where can they read your work?
You can read my work on rotoballer.com, expandtheboxscore.com, and next month I'll have another article on theathletic.com.
That's all the time we have, you guys. See you back here next week.